Hey everybody, Rosie here. Real quick before we get into our episode with Weston Spencer from Salt City Steel, he's generously offered Builder Sessions listeners $10 off their order. Just use code BUILDER10 at checkout at saltcitysteel.org. That's BUILDER10 at checkout at saltcitysteel.org. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, this is Weston with Salt City Steel, and you're listening to the Builder Session podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Builder Sessions, a podcast where we chat with your favorite builders.
We get to know them, their stories, and hopefully inspire you to get off the couch and build something cool. I'm Hoff.
And I'm Rosie.
And on this episode, we have Weston Spencer from Salt City Steel. We chat about how he got into welding and fabrication, the cool places trades experience can take you, and we dive into the Picket Master Pro.
Please enjoy our interview with Weston. Weston, welcome to the Builder Sessions.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's really nice to talk to you.
It's awesome to have you. I've been following you for a while now, and with the Picket Master, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But for our listeners who aren't familiar with you and your business, why don't you let them know a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Weston Spencer. I'm in South Salt Lake City, Utah, which is just it's pretty much Salt Lake City. We're just a little suburb of Salt Lake City. And I've been a welder for 20 years now. I started at 17 or even younger, actually, when my dad said, hey, come weld some shit with me. And I said, okay. Or I didn't really have a choice, I guess. He said, you're doing this. And he taught me. He was a diesel mechanic. And so he welded like crazy, built all his own tools and stuff. So he got me into it pretty early. And then at 17, he dropped me off at a ornamental iron shop and said, you're getting a job. Go in there and pass that weld test. And I did. And I learned a shitload. And I've always had a side business. And currently, Salt City Steel is my company. And it's just a side shop. I do railings and ornamental iron and trailer repairs, fences, anything that needs welded. Anybody comes in, a lot of planter boxes, stuff like that. And I also sell the Picket Master Pro, the equal spacing layout tool. So that's a lot of where I get my Instagram business from. And while I am on here as much as I am on the Instagram, that's a huge thing for me. Mm-hmm. TikTok a little bit now, but I really like Instagram more. It's just way more positive. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm also, my day job, I'm a ski lift mechanic. I don't even know if you guys knew that, but I'm a ski lift mechanic at one of the ski resorts in Park City. I've been there for about 17 years. So I'm the head fabricator up there as well. So I'm pretty busy.
That's cool.
Wow.
Ski lift mechanic. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool job. Skiing's always been a thing in my life. And then I just got into that from welding pretty easily. So yeah, what do you want to know about it? Like, yeah, we go and we check every shiv on the lift, all the wheels. And that's a pretty fun job. We call it line work. You go out, you take off a chair, and you put on a work cart, which is pretty much just a cage. And you're hanging from this cage with platforms. Then you go up to every single tower, and it runs you up. And then you lift up the rope, the cable, with a chain hoist. And you spin all the wheels, grease them, check all the axles, pivot all that. So that's one of the cool jobs. We do some of the boring stuff. You take apart every grip. So the grip that actually grabs the haul rope, we got to take that apart every 3 years and grease it, clean it, NDT it. So we non-destructive test a lot of things, usually with magnets. We magnetize the part, throw in some powder. It's a magnet, like a metal that's colored. And then if it's cracked, there'll be cool little lines in there and it'll stick in that line. And then I get to fix it if it's fixable. So it's a pretty cool job. I really like it. I do a lot of gearbox repairs. They have diesel engines and electric motors, so I do a lot of the diesel engine repairs as well.
Wow.
And it's pretty fun.
So how'd you get into that? Would you just go skiing one day and then you saw a help wanted sign, or you got stranded up on the lift and you're like, I can fix this?
No, so it's kind of wild. So I grew up skiing. We went skiing all the time locally here, and then found a girl and she went to New
Uh-oh.
Zealand for the summer. Yeah. So she goes to New Zealand for the summer, and I talked to her for that whole summer. She's down there skiing because it's winter down there at a ski resort. And then the next year, she moved in with me and a buddy, and we're just roommates pretty much all the summer. We were fighting wildland fires at the time here in Utah and all over the West, having a pretty good time doing that. And then that started not being so much fun, and she went back to New Zealand again for the summer after another winter here. I said, screw this, I'm going to chase her over there. And she's my wife now, by the way. So it worked out pretty good.
Congratulations.
Good chase. Good
Yeah.
chase.
Chase was successful.
It was. And that's, so what are we going on? 14 years now,
Oh,
I think.
cool.
So that's pretty awesome. She's pretty cool. She's hanging out with the kids right now in the house. But yeah, so back to the story. So I go over there without a job. I just showed up. I didn't know what I was going to do. And her boss was like, started talking to me. He was like, so you know how to weld? Do you want to be a lift mechanic? I'm like, yeah. So that's pretty much how I got into it. Spent about 3-4 months over there doing it and learned a bunch, skied around, and you learned you get to do the coolest job on the hill. You first one there, last one to leave. Sometimes you're sleeping over if something breaks. You don't get to go home. But so it's pretty cool. So I ended up coming back here. We only spent that winter there and came back and started applying for jobs here and went back to welding for a little while. And then right before winter that year, which was 2008, I believe, or 2007, I applied where I'm at and got the job and been there ever since. So it's worked out pretty well.
And what do you do on the off time?
There is no off time.
Really?
It's year round. So the summer we just that's when we tear everything apart.
Oh, okay.
So the summer is
that
like
makes sense.
it's like a shutdown
Yep.
at a plant. It's pretty much shutdown time. We tear it all apart, change all the oils, inspect all the grips, like I said, inspect the gearboxes, build new parts if they broke, repair anything that's damaged. It's pretty cool. And then
And you get to
we
hang
also
out on
run-
a ski hill where there's no snow on it.
Yeah,
That's
we do.
cool.
And then we also mountain bike too. We have a mountain biking operation.
Oh.
So 3 of the lifts we have to hurry and get fixed and ready to go for
Oh,
summer
yeah.
operation. So we're pretty damn busy. We got about
That's awesome.
30 guys now. I think a 30-man crew. So it's pretty busy job. There's in the winter time, like that's the off time really. We just sit around waiting for something to break. It's not that big. We just hang out, ski all day, and go check all the towers, check each ski lift terminal, make sure everything sounds good, look for any issues. So the winter's the fun time, which I enjoy both. I actually like the summer a lot too.
So
Tearing stuff apart's pretty cool.
skiing, working, mountain biking, working. That sounds like
Yep.
a pretty sweet gig.
And then I get home and work on the weekends too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sweet
Wow.
gig for a welder.
Yeah.
It is.
What
It's
I mean
really
by
cool
that
way to
is
be.
not saying for a welder, but I mean like it's cool that welding and fabrication and your mechanical background a little bit got you there. Like you would have thought that it would have taken you to a ski hill in New Zealand. Like,
Exactly.
that's
Not at
awesome.
all. Did it even a little bit. Like I just thought I'd be working as my old man. Like he was a diesel mechanic in a fleet shop forever or something like that, and having a good time still. That's a great job. But working at a ski resort is a totally different game. The pay is sometimes not as good, but in the end, it usually ends up being as good or better at certain mountains. I'm at a pretty large one now, so it's a pretty cool job for a welder. It's like welding. If you could fix anything, almost with welding. So
Yeah.
I've always thought that at least. So if you don't know how to can't weld it, you can make a part to fix it, stuff like that. So that's why I think welding is a very important skill to have for any tradesperson, really.
Yeah. So if we go back a bit, how did you create or form your Salt City Steel? How did that kind of come to fruition?
So as soon as I learned how to weld, I started working on the side. My old man had a welder in his shop. He had a little garage, kind of like mine. So started welding there. And in high school, I took welding in high school, and I ended up welding for teachers. I built some bumpers for teachers in high school. So it's always been a side job. And that was while I was working at the ornamental iron shop, I had a side shop at home as well. We did farmers markets for years. If anybody wanted a railing, family would call me and say, hey, I need a railing, or my buddy needs one, or however it works. And then kind of really went crazy with it though about pandemic time. And even before, it's always been, I've always had tools, always had shops. As soon as I bought this house, I bought it because it has this 30 by 30 shop in it, bigger than the house. And I put a weld table in it right away.
Yeah.
So I've always had my Salt City Steel shop forever. I can't really pick a day it started, but during the pandemic, I just went big with it, started making the Picket Master, and then bought more and more tools and just keeps going bigger. Now I'm just working constantly, but it's okay. Still find time to play with the kids.
That's good.
Sounds like you're having fun doing all this on the mountain.
Yeah,
and
I really
at
like
home.
it. Yep, it's great to be at home and just walk out your back door and do some work. And
Yeah.
Is that
It
a
works out
double
pretty
edge?
well.
Is that a double-edged sword being so close to work, or are you able to kind of make that balance of, you know what, I'm gonna just hang out in the house and relax, or crap, I got to get out there and
I don't relax. No, I don't
Oh,
relax very
okay.
well at all.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't think it would, if I had a shop farther away, it would help. I would probably still need a shop at home to work in. Because like even today, we didn't have anything going on. So I went and changed some outlets in the house and did some work in the house instead for a little bit. But I just stay busy. It's fun to play, but I don't sit around very well.
Yeah.
That works. I mean, it's interesting because I'm thinking about how much you have going on and your full-time job, and you have a family, and you have Salt City Steel and all this stuff. And I think it would be easy for someone to be like, oh yeah, it's busy. But you're like so positive and upbeat. And that's really cool. Because there's I've met a lot of people, myself included, come home, even tonight, we're like, oh shit, this is gonna be, I'm just exhausted. Like this is, and we've had like rough weeks teaching, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, I'm tired and blah blah. And then we get on and we're like, this is awesome, But
Yep.
you come on, you're like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm the busiest person you've ever met, and I am happy. So how do you stay so positive with the busy?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just pretending to be positive.
Yeah.
Truthfully, there's days that I don't
You're
want
a
to do
good
it.
actor. Yeah.
I'm sure there is. And I think my day job really helps. I really enjoy it. And I do get a little bit of rest time there. I'm sitting around some of the time waiting for stuff to happen, waiting for any issues. So there is some rest time there. And I think being so, how you said, double-edged sword, having my shop so close, it's so easy to come in and out. And having a very supportive wife of all this helps, I guess. And I still find time to play. I'd like a little more time to play. There's a few day events I don't get to do that often right now. But kids are expensive and they like nice stuff. So I guess I'll just keep doing it while I can.
I think you hit the nail with the hammer there, saying that you enjoy your job. There's a lot of people that get caught up in money, or this is what I need to do because whether I was told to do it or this is what I grew up around. But I think if you can truly enjoy your job, it doesn't necessarily feel like a job. And you said sometimes my job feels like rest, and you could probably be slinging around cables all day and come back rested because you enjoy it. It's just kind of like you're playing around, and then you can go work at home. I think that speaks volumes. Hey, Rosie.
Oh yeah, it speaks volumes. Awesome.
Enjoying what you do. I mean, I don't think I could do something I didn't like. So being able to have that motivation and enthusiasm to enjoy what you're doing, if people can find that, who cares? I mean, obviously you got to pay the bills and, but at happiness and enjoyment of job over money, I would take any day.
Oh, I totally agree. And there was times I didn't make as much. That's why I welded on the side. I wasn't crushing it as hard, getting paid as well, but I always supplemented, and I'm just used to it at this point. And the kids are 11 and 13, so they still need a lot.
Yeah.
I've still got this going on for a couple of years probably of being this busy, but that's one of the main reasons I haven't quit going back to the liking your job is because I done my own shop, because I really enjoy both, but I do enjoy my job enough that I don't really want to quit. The pay's well enough, and it's so much fun playing on big machines and repairing really cool stuff, and that it's hard to want to leave.
Yeah, probably a big risk too, right? If side gig goes down a bit and you've still got your day job, that's okay. Yep. But if you put all your marbles into one basket, then that puts more stress on your life, and maybe the enjoyment doesn't stay there if you're constantly stressed about, paying bills and getting jobs done or finding jobs.
Yeah, I could see that being a real hard part. That's one of the worries. And then insurance, of course, that's how they get you here. You got to have insurance to live. So that keeps all us small business people kind of in check a little bit.
Yeah.
And my wife works from home too, so don't really get to rely on her for the insurance side. So we just crush it as much as we can. And play hard when we do play. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, we took the whole day off and took the kids to a different ski resort and skied all day long and had a great day with them. So
That's cool.
we still find time to play.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's important. So who inspired you to get into, we talked about your dad kind of almost like, hey, you need to go do this. Was he a big inspiration to get into it, or was there other influences in your life to get into welding?
I'd say my dad was the big influence for sure. It wasn't really a choice to not know how to do things growing up with him. He built his own shop. He was a diesel mechanic. You fixed your own car. You built anything you wanted. My mother too, she was a flower arrangement. She made flower arrangements for a florist, somewhat of a dried florist. So they were always working, showing you examples of that. But getting into welding was mostly from my father. He got me into it really early and just kept giving me projects. I think, what is I, 15, we got my grandpa's old farm truck and we ripped the front end off and made it a 4-wheel drive, a little Isuzu Pup diesel, put a Toyota front end on it, a solid axle. And so he got me into how cool it is just to make stuff really early. And showed me all the tricks, of course, and that helped a lot. Knowing how to do it right the first time really helped, or a right way to do it. So,
Yeah, a way.
yeah.
I think when you're young like that, I remember being around my dad and his buddies. They would frame up garages for whoever. And as a kid, I remember, maybe carrying some 2x4s and just watching, probably for the most of the time, because it was maybe way over my head, but how much you soak in at a young age and being around, whether it's people that are building houses, welding, building cars, tinkering, DIY stuff at home, fixing electrical, whatever. But if you're around that at a young age, I think that sinks in a lot quicker than maybe if you pick it up when you're older and you're kind of influenced by that. And I was intrigued of like, how does this stuff work? And now you start building birdhouses, and then it turns into, whatever, candles and just different things. I remember making a whole bunch of stuff for Christmas for people, and my dad would back the cars out and we would set up the table saw, chop saw, and we would just go. And I think being around somebody who's, like, let's go make stuff or let's fix stuff gets you problem solving at a younger age, which I think is beneficial for later in life. And hopefully, this new generation can get that, because we also see the other side where, sometimes people don't necessarily know how to do things and they can't pass that good information on to their kids. And there's a little bit of a stall, I think, in that.
Yeah.
From what I see right now. But yeah, I mean, you take it in as a young kid and you're just like mesmerized by it. And I think that's an awesome experience to be able to have as a young one.
Oh yeah, it really was. I take it for granted big time having that, because I know a lot of friends that didn't. My house is where you showed up if something was broken. All my buddies would show up with their trucks. Let's fix this. So I was super lucky with that. And that's what's super cool now, is how many people didn't grow up with that, but are learning it on their own too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like what a lot of people you guys have had on and stuff who didn't grow up knowing anything, and all of a sudden started getting in the trade somehow, where however they get into it. And then with the internet and everything else, how we can all just learn to do whatever the hell we want now. It's super cool. And I think a lot of people are doing that more too lately, at least us older guys especially. So I don't know about the kids any right now, but
oh, absolutely.
You got it at your fingertips almost, right?
Even welding, I'm taking my journeyman welding ticket right now, and anytime I need advice, it's like, YouTube, weld.com, whatever it is.
Email
the prof, send him photos. It's digital. It's distance learning.
Oh yeah, there's so
cool
right now. With all anytime I'm struggling on a weld or whatever, I just look it up on the line or talk to all the Instagram buddies, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Even today on Instagram, somebody showed up with a belt buckle they wanted me to repair, and I'm like, I don't really know what the heck this is made of. So I just reached out to everybody, got some pretty good responses of silver, some solder it, or silicon bronze solder, and TIG silicon bronze. I'm like, I don't know if I want to melt this guy's belt buckle still, but we'll see what he says.
But if the internet's not like back in the 70s and 80s when there was no internet, was it, I guess, a lot of phoning or, driving to somebody's shop to ask them? I mean, it's so accessible, but then also does it take the, the interactions and the socializing out? Like there's always pros and cons stuff, but back in the day, even we had Eric Tesmer on yesterday. big into international trucks, and he's got all these manuals from the 50s, and it's a total different era now, right? Back then you'd have to get your manual out or whatever, go to your, welding fab or your fab book and try and find something. Whereas now it's wicked to see, but I wonder, does it take away some of the, again, we as teachers see it as these kids are stuck on their phones and they can't hold a conversation. They can send you a message and be like, hey, I'm having a problem with this weld, but they get in front of you
in the subject line of the email.
They're shaking, right? They can't talk to you.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's wicked to be able to, I'm very much a visual person. So YouTube, Instagram, I mean, I see a picture of something if I'm struggling, wicked. I know how to, you be able to research and find a problem or solve that problem that you have. And that's almost a niche in its own too, being able to, figure out what direction do I need to go to find the solution to what my problem is right now.
Oh yeah. I can see that for sure being an issue. Like I don't really have too many shops I can just show up at and say, what do I do? Or if there's not that many neighbors you can knock on their door anymore. And I hope some people still have that in their life. I have my old man still close, so I get to go to him and when I have issues, of course. So like, I guess I'm still lucky on that one. But I can see that for sure. And I have had a lot of people show up at the shop and I kind of help them out when they need some help if they're local. I say, come on down, we'll actually do some hands-on. But it's pretty rare, really. Right now, it's all just you message a guy and you show him how to do it, or you message him to figure out how to do it.
Or it's just replacing.
Yep.
Yeah. Right? Throw it out, get a new one.
Or they send it to you and then you fix it and then they get it back, right?
And then they get mad at how much it costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. There's not a lot of people who like how much repairing stuff is, so it makes sense why we do throw so much away. But when stuff's not made to repair anymore, it makes it cost more. Whereas back then, everything was made to be fixed.
Yeah,
they sold the little parts and stuff.
Oh yeah, we were talking with Eric. Yeah, we had him on yesterday, and this 1-ton international that I have. It's a
sweet.
It's a 51 L130, and the back you can change an axle, a rear axle, without taking the tire off.
Oh wow!
Like an axle shaft.
Right? Really, you can pull it right out through the center hub.
Right through the hub. There's like 6 bolts. Out it comes. Done. Like in the field, if you break, and you don't have to take off this. I don't know. Just the parameters that they, well, the considerations they made when they're engineering these things for field repairs and repairing it when it needs to be fixed, all that. Now it's like, well, I don't know, warranty's off. It's going to cost you 15 grand, or just get a new one. We'll send you to our finance department and they'll hook you up with a credit bashing deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to or you just replace the entire axle assembly instead of just your hubs and everything. You got to buy the whole thing. They don't want to even mess with it because it doesn't come in pieces anymore.
Yeah.
Those old internationals are sweet. That's pretty cool. You got one of those. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I almost picked one up a while ago too, but I decided I probably needed more of a modern camp and work truck before I get an old one.
Do you have any auto projects on the go?
Not right now. I'm looking for a new one. So right now I have a Toyota 4Runner 06.
Sweet.
And all that, and I have a big off-road camp trailer that I tow around in the summer with the kids that I built from scratch. So it's actually an old utility bed, fiberglass utility bed for a work truck like that the plumber would have or whatever. And I made a new frame, put a rack on it, awnings and all that with same size tires as the truck. But yeah, now with the 4Runner, I have 3 kids that are all teens and preteens and they don't fit anymore. So I'm hoping here in the next month or so to get a Toyota Sequoia and start building that up and go full on with a full-size truck for the first time ever.
That's awesome. When you were talking about your 4Runner, it kind of our connection kind of messed up. So how'd you describe it?
Oh, I have a 2006 4Runner, the 4th gen with a 3-inch lift, kind of custom, done a lot of airbags on the back and everything like that. So that truck's pretty sweet. I beat the crap out of it. It's got like 230,000 on it. It's got a winch on the front. And I made a hide winch so I could not use the stock bumper and not spend 3 weeks building a bumper. I just didn't have time. So we did a little hide winch. And then I got my camp trailer. I don't know if you
we heard that.
Haul around. Okay.
That's
So yeah, it's
awesome.
pretty sweet rig. So hopefully I got to upgrade soon though. It's getting tight.
Yeah, I have a WJ, and
Oh, sweet.
I did a 2-inch BDS like spring lift, and like Bilstein shocks, and then just I think they're like 30 and a halves. Like they don't whatever.
29 and a half. You're rounding up.
17-inch tires, pizza
This is-
cutters. You're rounding
That's
up.
fine.
Yeah. No, but they're like they're big enough. They also rub a little bit on the front bumper even though I've trimmed it, but either way.
Yeah.
So I understand, and we just had our third kid. So like in the future, well, even now, we can't have a baby seat and then 2 booster seats in the back of that thing. Like I get it. So whenever we go camping, I pull a tent trailer, and my wife brings the van along, and
Oh no.
yeah,
That's all. That makes it so much more difficult.
Or,
That's why I'm
like,
looking at the Sequoia because it's got that full 3 rows that are giant.
Yeah. It's a
They're so
Tundra.
expensive.
It's a big. Oh, I know. Even the older ones though too, right? The older, not the
Oh,
new
yeah, they're
Sequoias,
sweet.
but the older ones are pretty sweet. And there's not a ton of like aftermarket support for them, but it's starting to come now. It's starting to
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, there isn't really a bunch. There's a few lift kits out there that look pretty cool. But that independent rear suspension really complicates it. And you don't get
Yeah.
near as big as a Tundra. But I think it's gonna be a fun rig to build. I'm pretty excited. I just gotta find the right one.
I
We
wonder if you
decided to
could
wait
put-
till after Christmas, so
I
here
wonder
soon
if
we
you.
gotta buy
I wonder
one.
if you could put Tundra axles under it.
I don't know. Yeah, let's do it. That'd be
Hey?
pretty cool. Let's
'Cause then you'd
pull
have-
that rear off.
Then you'd
and
have
put the
solid
Tundra on there.
rear, but the Tundra has independent front. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's all the same front end. It's just the rear end. It's different.
Yeah, for comfort, obviously, for ride
Whatever.
driving.
I'm gonna ruin
But
that.
it's a solid axle. It'd be so much easier to lift.
Oh, it would be. I might have to look into if anybody's doing that. I'm sure they are.
Just thought about
There's
that because it's the same chassis, isn't it?
it should be the same frame, and you just make your own spring hangers and be good to go.
Yeah, I
I think
don't
we
know.
got to do one.
That'd be sweet. And I love my WJs.
Problem solving.
Front and rear solid axles. Like WJs have the solid axle in the front.
Oh, sweet.
And
Yeah.
the Dana 44A, the aluminum one.
Yep. Really?
Yeah.
I miss having that. I had that in Land Cruiser. I had an 80 series Land Cruiser, I think a 91 when the kids were real little, and that was pretty cool.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Just a beast though. And it was right before emissions really got good.
yeah.
So it was like half electronics, half digital or
Yeah.
mechanical emissions. So everything sucked.
Yeah.
It was so hard to
Yeah,
keep it
yeah,
running.
yeah.
You had to replace everything all the time. But that was a fun rig to do with little kids because we'd open the little back slider window and just put the kid in the window.
Oh, cool.
Oh, there you go.
It was a fun one to have them with.
That's awesome. So, okay, Picket Master Pro. How did it get started? What was the moment you're in the shop? You're like, oh, I know I have a tape measure, but
The aha moment.
was there like an apple, Newton's apple hitting you in the head kind of thing, or like lightning bolt? What happened? Tell us. The story.
It somewhat was, I guess. So it's not my idea. I didn't come up with the equal spacing tool, of course. They've been around for a long time. So at that shop I worked at when I was a kid, he had a bunch of these. They were a pretty similar tool, and I never could get my own. I'd look online. I worked there for about 5 years, so I was like, I should take one of these. I never just took one and helped myself. I was a good employee, but I always wanted one. And that's how I learned how to space was with the dividing tool. I'm like, whenever I didn't have one, I'm like, it's just a waste of time doing the math. No matter how you do it, no matter if you get your run and you divide it by your spacing, and then you hit M plus on your calculator and just keep going down the line, it's always wrong somehow. You end up hitting the wrong button on the calculator, or if you use blocks and you don't cut them just right, you end up with wrong spacing on the end. It just drives me crazy. I don't want to waste my time with it. So right there during the pandemic, we all had a lot of free time. And so I'm playing with my kids' Legos with him one night, and I hook them together, and I'm like, I just made one. Holy crap. And it was super, but it was all small because he only had like 10 whole little connect Legos was the closest he had to making one. But I figured out how simple it was to do it. And so I went down and bought some aluminum stock, some 1/2-inch aluminum stock by 1/8, I think, from the local supplier, and cut that up and to put some 45s on the ends and drilled some holes in it all. I'm like, I have one. Holy crap. This is so cool. I'm never doing math again. Just do my spacing or doing blocks and spacers or none of that. I'm like, and then once I build it, I realized I can share this. Why do I not start making these and let's sell some stuff? We've sold stuff at markets and everything, but never online or anything. So it was big learning curve there, just huge. How do I do this? But with Instagram, went straight to Instagram, made some videos, and they took off. Started commenting on people, hey, check this out. All the ornamental iron dudes were just like, what the heck? This thing's cool as shit. So I made some, sold them online. I was cutting them all by hand, getting the chops out, cutting them out aluminum, putting them in the drill press, had a little jig going and would drill every hole. And they were close. They were okay. They weren't amazing. They weren't amazing because you've done repeat drilling. It's one of the hardest things to ever do. Your jig moves a little bit. You cut it just a little bit short. They were turning out really good, but not great. They were selling. So like, let's get some laser cutter. Looked into laser cut and I found a shop, Oshcuts, here in Utah. They're an online laser cutting company and had them cut me one out. As soon as it showed up, I ordered to spend another $1,000 or so and ordered a whole bunch. So that's kind of how it all started. I just kept going and going and going. Now I think we've sold over 1,000 right now. It's pretty ridiculous.
Wow.
We're still doing this. I thought for that first bit, I'm like, yeah, that's that month. We'll see if it keeps going. Just kept going and kept going and kept going.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, our kids, even in I want to teach them how to use the tape too, but we have it in the, for those of you who, well, I guess no one would know this. Corey and I each bought one for our shops at the school, and it's awesome. The kids love it. It helps them understand spacing, and like spacing out the rungs of a ladder. Like that math can be really, it's simple, but it can be confusing as hell. Because you have more rungs than you do spaces, and then you gotta, depending on where you have it, if you have 4 inches on each end of the whatever,
Yep.
There's so many things to consider, and for a kid that struggles with math, let's say, like me, myself,
yeah,
it's nice to have.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, I really appreciate getting some from it. That was super cool of you. But yeah, I totally agree that the fabricator or tradesperson should know how to do the math.
Yeah.
And then, because there's times it's not going to work for whatever the situation, there's something will come up that's the spacing's a little bit bigger, or it's a huge panel and you can't figure out how to divide it up again, that they just can't get it. And it might drive them crazy. So they do the math. Or if you only want to divide something in half or quarters and get them equal, you need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you there. But it's like any tool, the guy should know how to run a screw in with the screwdriver as well.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Why
Before
use
going
it
to
when
the
you
drill.
yeah, why use a drill first? You're going to use the tool. That's kind of what I try to say here.
It's for efficiency.
It's a tool to speed up time, and your time is money. So yeah, it's not a cheap tool. The Picketmaster isn't the cheapest thing out there. Way more than a tape measure and a calculator. But if it saves you 5 minutes every job, that adds up pretty quick. Or
and
even
a
more.
new
It's usually
sheet,
going to save you more.
Or more materials, redoing it, scrapping it. It saves you patching a hole in your wall because you're pissed off that you screwed the math up again.
Yep.
The precision is the huge thing, I think. Have that repeatability of, you can lock it in and go from one panel or a piece of wood or whatever to the next, and it's dialed in. You don't have to worry about, holding your tape measure on a line and double checking, the repeatability and precision is amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's really what it's all about. And then what's cool too, so if you're building a bunch of panels and each one's a couple inches off, if you had a memory stick, it's no good. If you already did your math, so now you just spread out and they're each a little different by whatever your spacing changes by 1/8 of an inch. It saved you all that time of doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's what would drive me crazy when I'd have a bunch of panels and they're just a few inches or 10 inches difference, but you had to do the math over and over again.
Yeah.
So definitely speeds it up.
And if you do struggle with it, you just check your Instagram out and watch videos, because you make some great videos on explaining, how to count for the picket, going on the outside of the picket. Like that kind of blows my mind, because I'm like, I don't do stairs and the spacing, but you put it down there and your videos show you, and you explain really well how to use it. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And I've got these little notes in my head now when I go to use it, that I'm like, sweet. So
yeah, it works out good doing it that way with you. So I guess if your listeners didn't really realize, what the Picketmaster Pro is it's accordion style device. And if you want to go off a center, it works really good. You just mark your center of your picket, your hole, your weld, whatever you're spacing here, your coat hook, you can lay it on center and just hold up your device out or whatever you're spacing and weld it on or drill your hole, just center, just eyeballing it. Because a lot of things eyeballs close enough, for what we're doing. But to get real accurate, you push it over like framing, like you're saying, you go to half the picket over, and then that's all the way down. You mark which side, like you'd frame out a house, your 16s and give you an X.
So you go on like the 16 and 3/4. That's what you're doing with the half picket, is you're accounting for that thickness of whatever material you're welding or whatever.
Yep.
Oh,
if you want to push it over the end, you go the full picket over, so that in space or the full space, whatever your space is. So if you're doing a 1/2-inch picket, you take a 1/2 inch all the way over on the end, and on your center, if it's a big panel, I hope I'm not just jabbering on here.
No, it's all good.
Sense.
It's awesome.
It's kind of hard to explain sometimes. So if you got a main panel, you just go 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch on each panel, or half picket, and then you're good. All your spaces equal out because you're pretending that those are that space. But if it's a huge panel, it works great to find the center of that panel and mark that, and then turn that into a picket or a hole, whatever it is, and then you do that where, like you're saying, take it all the way over on the edge and half of the center, and you could just keep going like that. You can do a 1/4 of your panel at once. You could go. I got guys doing 15-foot gates with it all the time, having no problems. It takes a little bit more time of setting it up, but we've got a lot of customers making some amazing stuff out there. I really like to show that off too on my Instagram. If you guys check all the cool workout that any of my customers have, they tag me in it, and I get to share all their cool stuff. That's really fun thing to be able to do.
Have you made any more of the plastic ones? Or is that
I have some ready to go.
Yeah.
They don't sell quite as good. I don't market it. It's my fault. They don't push the plastic one as much. I get those ones laser cut as well.
Yeah.
So they get cut from a local guy. This really fun couple here. They're just a mile away from me, and they have a cool little laser, pretty good size laser, but not the giant ones. But they cut those for me, and I haven't sold a ton of those. But that's my fault. I forget about them. It's not my main focus. I want it to be. They're super fun. I think they're really pretty, and they're fun to open and close.
Yeah. Well, the color of the sharpness too. Like it's a full blown knife there. I opened it up. I was this is sharp.
Yeah, so is the stainless steel one. They're both sharp as crap.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to tumble them a little bit. I have some ideas to make that help with that, but I really like that sharp too. It really gives you a fine point to go off of. So
yeah.
They're a pretty fun product. I've really enjoyed the Picket Master, and I'm glad you guys have one. That's super cool that you guys got one from me, and the kids are liking it, and then the wood shop's killing it too.
You almost need to think differently with it. Like I sometimes I'm like, how do I use this? How do I incorporate it? But there's a kid that built a sub box, and he was just putting screws in, and he's like, well, how far should I space them? I bring it out, put them on like 3.5-inch centers. Boom, he lays it down, he sets it up, and I'm like, instead of going from marking through, like obviously you don't need to be precise with that, but just showing them, hey, it's like a divider, right? You could probably take some dividers too and do something similar, but this is more visual for them all. Yeah,
and if it shows you too, what's cool is how you can adjust it. So if you start with, like you're saying, with screws in a box, and you have 10 in it, and you're like, that looks kind of funny, I want more or less. You can just go bigger or smaller with it.
Exactly.
And a lot of guys use it for spacing welds that way too. So like you're welding up a big boom or something on a cherry picker or loader, and you're just stitch welding every whatever, you have a gap every 3 inches, and they want it to look good and not just guessing. They'll mark the start of a weld and the end of the weld and just lock it up and keep moving it down the line, and all their welds are exactly the same space.
Wow.
It just helps tons. There's lots of uses for it.
Yeah.
The other day I made a pie, and I spaced out the crust cutting, the ribbons on top of the lattice with it. That's what it's called.
Holy. Breaking into all the different
Is that food grade stainless steel?
And I guess truthfully, I've seen online now that the bakers do have one that has like pizza cutters on it. So you can spread it out and then just roll it down your dough.
Nice.
Which would be a pretty cool way to go.
There you go. There's your next project.
Yeah.
So with your with Salt City Steel, do you do mobile? Like, do you have a welding truck? Do you have anything like that, like a rig set up, or is it mostly in house or in shop?
No, I am kind of crazy with that. So I've got 2 different rigs. I got the 4Runner. I'll load all my tools in that, and I have flat deck trailer, so I'll take it and I'll do everything mobile with that. I have a generator, little Miller Bobcat 225. It's from like, it's got to be 30 years old. Just picked that up a while ago, so I have a generator I can go out and weld with. But most of the time I'll throw it in the 4Runner. I have a Prius to commute to work with. I'll throw my little Miller 215 in the back of the Prius, and I'll go fix pool gates for a lot of the hotels up in Park City, Utah, and I'll go fix those right out of the Prius because you don't need a lot of tools. You just need a grinder, your squares, your tape measures, and you're good to go. Wow. So yeah, I do a lot of mobile too. And I also, go back to my old man, he has a full-size dump truck. So I'll work out of that if it's a really big job. And we'll go do staircases and stuff like that on site. When it's big, we haul his big F350 dump truck and do some real work with.
Wow. Do you like the artistic side with the ornamental stuff, like the railings and stuff? Do you find it a challenge, or do you kind of embrace that with being creative and, designing and different things like that?
I really like the designing part of it. I think that's quite fun. My mom taught me a lot about designing when I was young, helping her decorate the house and all that stuff as a kid that you really enjoy. And I learned what looks good and don't look good. So designing the railings is quite fun for me, and picking out which sizes will go good with each other and where to put a post or to do double posts. I do enjoy the designing part. I've helped a lot of guys to figure out what they're going to want to do with their designing, because that can be hard. Mm-hmm. If you haven't done a lot of railings, especially, you're like, what's going to look good? And you can really screw some stuff up and make it look kind of funky. And coming up soon, I'm going to have a pretty fun one. I'm doing an arbor between two planter boxes that I built a year or so ago. I did some giant planter boxes, and they want to do an arbor over it. And they want to do something different. So I'm doing a mountain scene out of wire on the street side of this arbor. So that'll be a really fun artistic one to do.
Do you, with your designing, do you use CAD, or are you old school, like paper, sketch it out, or do you just kind of work with the material as it comes to you?
So I'm learning CAD, but no, I pretty much just work out of my head. I do draw it up old school, just so I don't screw up my numbers, and I don't do any detail work. I've done it so long that I don't need all that info to be put down on paper anymore.
Yeah.
But I am working with CAD, because I did pick up a Langmuir plasma table a while ago.
Awesome.
So I finally teaching myself how to draw stuff, and that's helped out a lot with what I'm doing and expanding more of the Salt City Still a lot. We're doing cool stuff with that, but mostly just by hand. I just measure it out. My stuff looks horrible. I'm the only one that understands what I just drew. Yeah. And half the time I do have to go back because I have horrible handwriting. I do know a lot of guys on Instagram and everything that are doing CAD drawings, and it's like, that is really cool. Everything is done for you. You don't have to think while you're working, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Has that process been hard? Because I've kind of tinkered with AutoCAD with like shop drawings and projects I'm pretty good with, but now with Fusion 360 and the 3D side, I'm just like, it's over my head, and I feel like you got to put hundreds and hundreds of hours in and, be able to figure this program. How has it been for you to pick that or start with it, or, experiment with the CAD program?
I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm guessing and redoing, and
not the only
I haven't done any I haven't done any 3D stuff yet at all. When I first got Fusion, I turned it on. I'm like, I don't have a clue. I couldn't get rid of the little lady in the corner. I was so confused on all of it. And again, Instagram and the internet taught me what I'm doing to draw up almost any part now that I want to draw. I could sit down and get it drawn up, and it ends up working out pretty well. But no, I haven't touched 3D stuff. And that's part of where while you're saying with like CAD and drawing up shop pro stuff, I have not figured that out. I haven't spent the time to do it either. Because
it sounds like you don't have the time because you're too busy working and having fun.
That is the only reason I learned how to use the Fusion 360 was at work. During downtime last winter, I'd sit at the computer and just draw stuff up, waiting for my turn to go skiing or waiting for something to break. So that really helped a lot, having that time at work.
Yeah.
To get on there.
So locally, how do you get the word out that you have the skills to fix these railings and fix the stuff at the pools and at the hotel? Like you were mentioning, you drive around and you don't just like go up and be like, "Hey, I noticed your railing has a little break in it. I could fix it for you." Like how
no, I've never done that. I haven't had to. So being in a game so long is a little different for me than somebody coming into it. I think I had a lot of luck and word of mouth from family and friends forever. They all just know you know how to weld, and they ask you, "Hey, can you do this?" And it's not always a bunch of work that way, which was great because then you're not overwhelmed. Like right now, I'm turning stuff down because there's too much of this going on. But it's always been just word of mouth. Like my old man had a bunch of friends, and somebody would call him, "Hey, how do you do this?" And I want to do this, and he'd send them my way, or an uncle or whatever, or neighbors would want something, and they'd hear you grinding in the driveway, and hey, you want to build this? So it's a lot of that is how I kind of got into it. And then the more you know, the more people you've worked for, the more it's coming. And right now, though, I am getting some Instagram business for sure. I do get some messages, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I'm on Google as well, so I am getting a lot of just requests off of there, which is kind of a weird way to go. You don't know who they are and stuff, so it's a little sketchy. And there's definitely scammers on there. But for a new person coming out, I would say just do that. Go say your railing's a little weird. We can fix that. Or if you can drop the money to get door hangers and go hang them on people's doors in a new construction site, go talk to contractors. Contractors are great. I don't work with them as much as a lot of guys around here. I kind of just work for homeowners a lot. I have done a construction or contractors, but I like working for homeowners a little better. There's nothing wrong with contractors. Homeowners have been good for me.
Yeah.
So new guys though, yeah, get on Instagram, get on Facebook. You're gonna get some from both of those, but not for a while. Just go bug people. Let everybody know what you're doing. You're gonna be at the bar and some guy's gonna want something, and if they don't know what you're doing, you got to tell them what you're doing. Say, "I'm a welder, I'm a woodworker," and you're gonna get work.
And being in the game for so long, that word of mouth, I kind of think that's the best form of advertising because it kind of speaks about the quality. And your dad, buddy of his, they're not going to say, "Oh, I need something weld. Oh, this guy doesn't know how to weld," but go check him out. Like that word of mouth usually is. But then also, how do you start and get to the point where that you have a big network to be able to say, "Hey, phone Weston up or phone this person up for this." I don't know. You can spend a lot of money marketing, branding, stuff like that. But I don't know, the old school, that word of mouth is kind of a nice, like solid, but then
it's like the original Yelp review.
Yeah. But how do you get to that point when you're just getting in? Like you said, you got to go knock on doors. And I mean, I'd be kind of nervous to do that, but you got to start somewhere and get some work. So at least you've got a couple people or clients to say, "Hey, phone this person for for this project you need welded up," or whatever.
Yeah, I can see it being quite hard, but it doesn't take long. I think that's what guys think they're gonna have to do that way forever, and they're not. You get a few jobs, and you're gonna get referred if you do a good job. No matter what, if you're a welder, electrician, whatever you're doing, if you want to get on your side and crush it, you just do good work. I bet most guys, once you found 2 jobs, you're gonna get a call pretty soon after that from their neighbor. Put a sticker on your truck and just get out there and let them see who you are.
Yeah.
But knocking on doors is scary, but if you want to crush it, you got to get over any of that. It's what's fun with any of this stuff that's been scary for me. To just get over it and grow from it is so cool. Kind of like you guys at the podcast, I'm sure, like how much you feel like you've grown once you get over and learn how to talk to people and get over just kind of being nervous about it and screw up a few times and people accept it. Like my first videos were terrible. So just learning and growing is pretty cool. Then once you look back on anybody looking at this, once you do it and you crush your little side gig and you have fun with it or whatever it is, and you look back and like, I was scared, but I did it.
And overcome that fear
very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick, I believe.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, and I know we've talked a little bit about this just with, going and getting your word and name out and stuff, but for advice for somebody getting started in welding, what do you got for us or for our listeners? What can they do to get started in welding?
To get started, just do it. Just go pick up a little machine and pick up wire feed to start with and just go with it. Pick up a little miller. You can just get it, even one at Harbor Freight or whatever, and just try it, watch some videos, get after it, and just make what you want to make and test it. Try to break it. Make sure your welds are okay, and then go to town. Screw up, make something. it's a hard field because you got to know how to make something. You got to understand how parts fit together and how to glue them up just right, and that they're gonna hold. So it takes a lot, but it's not that hard. It is not that hard to weld. It's like woodworking. It's not the hardest thing ever, especially with the internet now. It's gonna show you how to do it. Reach out to somebody if you know somebody who's into it and they have one. There's a good chance they're gonna show you how to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Welding's a pretty cool job, and it's a cool skill to have because you can fix whatever you have that's broken, or whatever problem you have. You have a shelf. You wish you had a shelf right there. You go to this local supplier, buy a couple remnants, and weld them together, and you just made a shelf. Or you broke your rack on your oven broke. You go weld it up, fix it, even if it's ugly. Who cares? As long as you're taking care of your own project and making stuff, fixing what you got.
It's almost a
really
lifelong
cool
skill in a way. Like my uncle was a welder up in the pipeline for his whole career, and he would weld the fence at the lake, and they built a big metal contraption that went into the lake so the boat lift could slide down it, and watching that and stuff. And then I picked it up, and my dad bought me a welder, and I did some horseshoe art, like little moose head towel hanger, and I kind of I want to get back into it. Like after talking with a bunch of people in the fab, and just I want to get, and I sold a little Hobart welder, but I want to get back into it. And just it's almost, for me, I think the welding is almost like the lathe. It's kind of peaceful for me, like just to throw the welder on and burn some iron, and it's peaceful. So yeah,
It's cool.
Oh, it definitely is. And I've always thought of myself personally more as a fabricator than a welder, truthfully.
Yeah.
Some of my welds are probably not as good as yours, but they'll pass and they'll hold. But I get bored with the actual welding, to tell you the truth. Sitting there and welding all day can drive me nuts. But if I'm cutting something, welding something, making a 3D object out of a pile of sticks, that's really what I've always enjoyed the most. Sometimes my welds definitely aren't as good as a guy who's welding on a pipeline and burning rod all day long. But just making stuff is really what gets me going the most. I really like that part of it.
Yeah. What specific skill sets are important to develop for
I
a
think
fabricator?
Knowing how to measure and knowing square, how to make something square, and how to measure something, and then how to screw up and how to fix a screw up is.
Yeah.
I've learned more as a fabricator screwing it up and fixing it than I did building it. Like there's parts like I'll try this and that didn't work, so you cut it apart. So the learning, then don't be scared to screw up is a big thing I want to tell everybody. Don't be scared to screw it up. Yeah, it's metal, but you know what? With wood, you cut it too short, you're screwed. A lot of metal, whatever you're building, you can just weld it back together. It works fine.
You can add to it. Fill that gap.
I don't have the wood. I haven't found that wood stretcher. That, the walnut
it's in the
one.
back of the shop there.
Yeah, the wood stretcher's hard to find, but that metal stretcher, it's laying right there. You just put that piece back on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what you're making, it'll be okay. Maybe not on your frame of your truck or whatever if you have to weld it back together, but there's a lot of things that are just fine to get welded back on and lengthened back out again.
I tell my students, I'm like, that's why God made grinders, man. He's like, oh, I've messed this up, or like some kids they're welding and they're like a corner joint, but they didn't make a good enough inside bevel for that corner, and it's more of like a butt joint, and then it kind of droops over the side, and it's not.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's why there's grinders. It's all good.
Oh yeah.
Go burn a few discs.
Yeah, just. And then they go shove it into the bench grinder.
I bet being a teacher is pretty terrifying sometimes, especially in a welding shop, watching what these kids are doing with some of the tools.
They probably burn a grinding disc in about 2 minutes, eh?
Oh, well, yeah. Yesterday, the day before, had a kid. Okay, first time on a hand grinder. I don't have. I gotta get. It was like a 5-inch, but I have to get a cordless one. Yep. Just a side note, I just want to change to cordless.
Oh, they're sweet.
But
go with the Milwaukee. I love the Milwaukee 18 fuel. That's a killer little grinder.
So I was sitting there and I tell, okay, so this arrow on the top on the guard, that tells you which way the disc is going, which way the flap wheel is going. And I don't let them use the thin cut wheels because
Yep, they're
because
dangerous.
that's the death wheel, right? I let them use the thick grinding ones, but sometimes they think it's a grinder and it's got a disc on it, and
it'll cut.
It'll cut through you. So, I don't let them use the thin. I let them use the flat wheel though. But I'm like, okay, so this arrow's pointing this way, and that's the way that the sparks are gonna go. So you have to think about that. And so, okay. So then I'm sitting there helping this other kid down the shop a little bit, and all of a sudden I just get sprayed with sparks.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, hey, and he can't hear, and I'm trying to yell, and then I'm just like, getting covered. I'm wearing my safety stuff, but I'm getting covered with sparks. I'm like, no,
it doesn't feel good.
You are blasting me with sparks right now. You know what sparks are? Hot pieces of metal.
That's tough. So with the kids, what do you do? A lot of projects with them? You show them how to weld, and then do they get to build something?
Yeah.
Or how does it work?
So I do. So I have like a set number of welds that they have to do for each year, and then I do a dice out of I think it's 1/8 thick coupons. And
cool.
They drill holes out of drill the holes for the dice numbers, and then they bend them in the brake, and then they weld them up, and then they grind them down, put a finish on them, and then
Nice.
I make little tin boxes and stuff, and then I let them do whatever they want. I let them make whatever they want. They have to design it and propose it to me, and if we don't have the materials in our scrap piles and stuff in the shop, then they have to provide their own materials. But I'm just like, just make whatever you want, and that's what their last credit, their fifth credit is.
Oh, cool. That's way better than the class I took. My school, it was horrible. The instructor didn't care anymore. He was the diesel mechanic, and he didn't actually know how to weld. So he didn't know what he was doing. So that's where I would just go in there and build bumpers and stuff. And I have questions. My old man would come in and show me how to do it. But that's cool. The kids are doing some fun projects.
Well, it gets
I'm sure
I found it gets them excited because they're not going to catch a passion for it welding an uphand, an uphand flux core on 3/8. You know what I mean? All day long. No. I want to build a coat rack for my dad, or I want to build a table, or I want to build a nightstand for whatever, and put some, some kids did a frame out of 1x1 square tube, and then they had little coupons on the bottom, and they did an abstract pattern where they went and cut some cheap wood and then put that in for a table. It turned out awesome.
I bet.
And that's kids catch passion for that, and then I don't know. It's kind of how I went with it.
Air Jordan out of
metal? Yeah, a kid made a Jordan 1.
Oh wow! The whole shoe
out of coupons and stuff. I'll show you.
Just bending them around into circles and stuff. And
I'll show you.
Curve shapes. Are you
familiar with? He didn't do laces.
No,
but he can fit his foot in it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's in I have a showcase now at the school.
Oh, cool!
And I put it in there, and they're like, "Man, this is awesome," because it's passionate, or they're passionate about it. And it's almost like I'll put up with practicing these welds, for so I can do this cool stuff.
Oh, and you have to. That's with any of us.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of where I go back to the welding part. Sometimes it's boring to me. But the building something's way more fun, or the fixing it, figuring out how to cut it apart, get it back together is way more fun.
It's almost like you said, though, with the Picket Master Pro, you need to know how to do it the old-fashioned way. And then when you have you need to know how to weld before you can start building these projects. But there's a fine line between nailing, because when I was in welding class in high school, it was oxyacetylene. I think we did for 8 weeks straight. And you're just in the booth, right, getting that puddle. And there's only so much coupon you can do.
Oh, that's pretty fun.
There's that Jordan.
Pretty cool.
I'm showing
that is cool.
It's kind of washed out on the camera, but yeah, he's did you see it?
Yeah.
Super proud of it.
I bet.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'll be a welder." So that's
So how many students have you had go on to get jobs in welding? Have you had very many?
No, yeah, quite a few actually. This is my 5th year. To probably 6 or 7.
Cool. And they're still doing it? Do you know if they're still at it? Or?
They're still
because once you start, you really don't get to stop until you're the boss. So
Yeah. No, one guy kind of took a break. Yeah, I have a good rapport with some industry partners.
oh, cool.
And they'll send me like a message saying like I need a good kid. Who can you send me? He can weld and he's a good worker, blah blah blah. And then if they're gonna mess around anywhere, it's gonna be at school if they do. And so the kids that take it seriously at school, those are the kids that these companies want, right?
Oh yeah,
And,
for sure.
And a shop teacher's reference for them is pretty good, you know. So,
oh yeah, it's a great way to get a job, to actually show up to shop class.
Yeah,
and so I try a little bit in any trades class. Just try a little bit, and you're gonna get you a job.
Yeah, and so I think it's in the last this is my 5th year, so the last 4 years, I think probably about 6 or 7 kids I've entered into apprenticeship roles and pursuing their ticket because we have journeyman tickets up here.
Yeah. So do you guys have skills classes, competitions up there too? Are you involved with that much?
Yeah. I signed 2 kids up the other day.
Oh, cool. We have a few schools in Utah here that are crushing it in Skills USA. My good buddy at Maple Mountain High School, I think he's had kids win the last 4 or 5 years.
That's cool.
Wow.
I'll send you the info. He's a really good shop teacher down there. He's kind of in a semi-rural area, but really.
And then
close
you get
to
the farm
too.
kids. You get the farm kids, and those are the best.
Yeah.
Well, they're not the best, but they're the kids who come from that tinkering. They've tinkered. They've worked with their hands coming into class. But although I've had a couple kids, quite a few actually, who have not even touched a welder, and they're incredible. Like video games probably help with that and stuff.
Oh, to have that steady hand too, the kid would. That's going to help so much. I definitely don't have the steady hand of the kid anymore. So. Yeah. We have a new gal at work that started up, and her steady hand. She hasn't welded in. She went to school, did the Lincoln School. For 6 months, and she hadn't welded in a year or whatever. And I brought her into the shop the other day. I'm like, go for it. Let's see what she got. I'm like, I can't do that. It's so much smoother than me and more consistent because I'm a little shaky anymore. So
getting back to tools, when people are starting out, let's say whatever their situation is, they want to start out in fabrication. What are the top 3 starting out tools other than the Picket Master Pro that you would recommend someone?
You gotta have the Picket Master Pro. You're not getting anything done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody could do this before it, so it can't happen. So of course, a welder.
Yeah.
You pick your process. Yeah, the TIG is super flashy and cool, but it's slow as hell. So I don't recommend starting with a TIG welder to get into welding, unless you want to get into aluminum and tiny little parts. I've really only gotten a TIG in the last 5 years, so I guess I'm biased on that. But I'd say go with a little wire feed welder. I'd go gas. I like flux and gas. So depending on where you want to go, if you want to start cheap, go with a flux core and throw a fan in and open the garage door. Spend $300-$400. If you could spend $1,000, go with a Miller, get a nice one. But you got to have that to do it, of course. Stick welder, I wouldn't recommend that, of course. You know how it works. Anything a guy in his shop's going to do, it's just going to be frustrating. You're going to burn through. You're going to hate it.
Yeah.
So go with a wire feed and then progress from there. And then, of course, a grinder. Like you said, a cordless grinder just is a great tool. The new Milwaukees are powerful. But still, they're not quite a corded. So get you a corded grinder because it's cheaper. You're going to trip on the cord, but whatever. And then I would say go with a Portaband probably to be that's always been one of my favorite saws is a Milwaukee Portaband or a DeWalt or even heard good things about the Harbor Freight one now.
I have 2 actually.
What's a Portaband?
It's like the handheld bandsaw.
The cordless bandsaw?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the mini bandsaw. I would say go with that because the chop saw is annoying. They're loud. They are needed too, and of course your squares, your tape measures, and all that. You need to have a square. I usually run just I don't know if I have any in here. Yeah, just your tri-square. Your sliding tri-squares are one of my favorite tools. And a bunch of tape measures because you're gonna lose them. You're gonna leave them all over the shop.
Do you have one of those swag off-road bandsaw table things?
I don't. I just throw it in the vise and clamp it off and run with it.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't have one is because with the Picket Masters, that's how I cut them down. Every end blade is short. So I cut them down with the bandsaw, and I don't really want a table. I just want to hold it.
Yeah.
So I don't have one of those, but I do have I guess I only have one portaband right now. I have one of those, and then if once you're really into welding though, and you've done it for a year and you made some money, the first big tool I would suggest a guy to buy instead of a good chop saw, get a horizontal bandsaw.
Yeah.
It self lowers. You can cut through all your steel at once. It saves so much time. So especially if you're doing railings and fences where you're cutting a whole bunch of the same length, you can bundle them all up, and weld the ends or clamp the ends and cut 10 sticks at once at 35 inches and then move it forward again and again and again instead of sitting there at the chop saw and going to town 1, 2, 3.
And probably not being as precise with the chop saw. Maybe
You're measuring each time, or even if you build a stop like wood, where you have a stop and you keep hitting that. But a bandsaw, they're so much easier to work. There are no more sparks flying everywhere. Because either way, a chop saw, now they have all the cool new steel blade chop saws that throw the little hot fireballs out of them.
Yeah.
They don't shoot out the dust, which is cool, but they're loud as hell, and they just throw all that mess everywhere.
The carbide tip ones.
Yeah, the carbide tip ones.
Cold cut saws, is that what they're called, or no?
I think so.
They're not. Cold cut saws are traditionally different. They're a really slow running saw that has water in it, and they run really slow. They're so fun to run because they're like running a wood chop saw, but with water and no mess. It's super slow. They're really cool. But no, the carbide ones they're great, but I hate them because they're such a messy tool.
Yeah, and I noticed even mine as you're coming down after a while, that blade likes to flex.
It does,
and so I'm cutting a straight like a piece for a kid's project, and all of a sudden the blade's flexing in a little bit, and the cut's crooked. Well, it's just whoop.
Yeah, I think they start to dull on one side. Some of the teeth like to dull.
Yeah.
And
it's a pain.
You got to get them sharpened or whatever, or get new ones. But
I don't have a bandsaw, but I'm gonna buy one for the shop.
Yeah, dude, I have the Ellis 1600. It's the smaller Ellis horizontal bandsaw. It's a no water, so cold saw, I guess you'd call it, or I don't know what you call it. But there's no oil and water to lubricate the blade, but it doesn't need it. I've had the blades last years.
Wow.
It's a beautiful saw, all made in America. Or it says made in America. Who knows what's truly made there, but it is a badass saw. They're not the cheapest things ever, but even with a bandsaw, to get a Grizzly or even that Harbor Freight, they have one for a guy in his shop. You want something that's going to really save you time. A horizontal bandsaw is the way to go. And then you also, with them, you don't have like the burrs all over your cut. Like if you're cutting box tubing, with the carbide, you get like a little burr on the bottom sometimes. That's
had a kid cut his hand through a leather glove because of a chop saw.
Yeah,
because of the burr that it leaves.
Just the burr. Yeah, and that's where get a bandsaw in that shop would be cool. It could be a little hard for the kids, if they start it with the blade touching, it's going to rip teeth off or get the speeds just right. But they're pretty handy. I really like them. Cool. They do take up more room, but whatever.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
What was it like seeing Tom Silva with the Picket Master Pro on your Instagram?
That was ridiculous, dude.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? That was pretty cool. Yeah, that happened about this fall. I ended up trading him. So I reached out to him on Instagram, and a while ago, I'm like, hey, check out the Picket Master Pro. He's like, that thing's really cool. I'm like, all right, what?
Is this a bot?
This can't be him. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, it's me. I'm like, no way. And he's like, that blew my mind alone. And then I'm like, hey, I really like those baseball bats. You want to trade me a baseball bat for a Picket Master Pro? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what? So I have a handmade baseball bat by Tom Silva.
Holy.
That's never going to be used for anything but sit on the wall. I'll do a post on it tomorrow. It is ridiculous. It's super beautiful. But yeah, watching him actually do a video blew my mind. I wasn't expecting any of that.
Showing how it works, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was insane. We were at the hockey rink. My kid was playing hockey at the time. And I'm walking around waiting for the game to start. I'm like, what is this video? Holy shit. It was so cool.
It's Tom Silva.
Yeah. And everyone around you is like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
You
you
guys
watch
probably
this
knew,
old
I
house.
grew up watching him every
yeah.
Sunday with my old man back when he had, what we have, maybe 13 channels we could watch
Yeah.
when we were
Yeah,
kids. We had
yeah.
a few more than they had.
This old house, I grew up watching that.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it was always pretty ridiculous. I like to repost that one quite a bit because it blows my mind still.
That's wicked.
He was a really good dude. I was stoked.
Oh wow! And when you saw him seen, on Instagram, you're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Oh yeah,
And then the 3 dots come up and he's typing.
yeah. I couldn't believe when he
Oh
first
my
responded.
gosh.
I'm like, no, you're not. I think I got so excited. I told everybody I knew right away.
Yeah.
Just talking to him, let alone once he made it. I'm like, or did a video of it. And his video is amazing. It makes total sense how he did his cool little laying it out. I was shocked.
Well, it goes to show that it can be utilized in fab, metal, wood. I mean, there's so many uses for a
Pie.
divider tool like that.
Apple pie.
Yeah.
Pie.
For
Yep. No, the wood guys.
bakers.
It's hard to get them into it as much as some of the metal guys because a lot of woodworkers are so precise that they'll cut their blocks to the tiniest degree, little measurements, and get
Yeah,
them
they're pretty.
almost like
they're pretty.
machinists.
They're pretty anal.
But
about
even
that
doing
kind of stuff.
railings,
Hey,
interior.
Hoff?
Hey?
Pretty anal about that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, oh yeah. Interior railings or something, right? Doing your pickets inside there. Lots of finishing carpenters do that. So I think and if I can figure out one way to use a tool, I'm gonna have it. Whether it's I only use it once in its lifetime, I'm gonna have it. So let's just load up the garage full of tools.
That's a good tip too for somebody out there who's wanting to get into trades and doing any trade work. If you have to borrow it more than one time, just buy it because you're gonna use it again.
Yeah.
Even if it takes a little hit, but add it into the job. The next job you bid, be like, hey, or even if you bought it the job before, let the next job pay for it. However you got to do it.
Yeah.
I pretty much pick up jobs now to purchase tools. And I don't use them as much as I do because I'm a teacher now. So I'm like, I think I did a vanity for my in-law and a sister-in-law. And I was like, I just want to get a Milwaukee cordless table saw. That's what I got from it. And I was stoked.
Sweet.
Oh, I've gone total Milwaukee. That stuff is wicked. So yeah, I can, you either factor it into the price or if you want to take a job based on it, there you go. That's a sweet toolbox.
Everything's red in my shop.
Yeah, nice.
I've got so many red tools. I got to be careful. I want my wife to find them all. So.
Oh, Weston, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for your time. And just as we kind of wrap up here, how about you just let people know where they can find you, where they can get the Picket Master Pro, and what anything new you have going on, and where people can find you.
So I'm on Instagram on SLC at Salt City Still. So you can get me there. It's my most used platform. I'm on TikTok at Salt City Still. I a lot of reposts in there. TikTok's a little weird one, but Facebook, of course, I'll be there. I have my website at saltcitystill.org, so you can get the Picket Master Pro, and I also have an Etsy shop and an eBay shop. So I'm on everything.
Cool. Well, and all those links are available at your website.
Yep, I think they are all on there.
Cool. And we'll link to them in the show notes of this episode as well.
Awesome.
So thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you to everyone for listening. Thanks, Hoff.
Thanks, Rosie.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.